Long before the great cities of Greece rose beneath the morning sun, before temples crowned the hills and marble statues watched over silent roads, there was an age when gods walked openly among mortals. Mount Olympus stood above the clouds. Its golden halls were filled with music. Zeus ruled the heavens with his thunderbolt. Poseidon commanded the endless sea. Hades guarded the silent kingdom beneath the earth. Athena carried the wisdom of the gods, Apollo drove the chariot of the sun, Artemis watched over the wilderness, and Aphrodite whispered secrets into the hearts of mortals. The world seemed eternal. But even the gods feared one thing. Prophecy. One night, beneath a moonless sky, the three fates gathered beside the river Styx. Clotho spun a new thread. Lachesis measured it. Atropos stood with her silver shears. Then something strange happened. The thread did not belong to a king. It did not belong to a hero. It did not even belong to a god. It belonged to a child who had not yet been born. Lachesis stared at the thread. "It is impossible." Clotho whispered. "The thread begins among mortals." Atropos slowly raised her eyes. "And it ends on Olympus." For the first time in countless ages, the fates were silent. Then Atropos spoke the prophecy. "From the blood of gods and the heart of man, a final child shall rise. He shall walk where heroes have fallen. He shall carry the light of Olympus. And the darkness of Hades. When gods turn against gods, he alone shall choose whether Olympus survives." Thunder shook the heavens. On Mount Olympus, Zeus opened his eyes. And far below, in a quiet village surrounded by olive trees, a woman dreamed of a golden eagle flying toward the stars. That woman was named Lyra. And she was about to give birth to the child who would change the world. Lyra lived in a small village beneath Mount Parnassus. She was neither queen nor priestess. She was simply a woman who gathered herbs, cared for travelers, and lived in a small stone house overlooking a valley. Her husband had died years before. So when her child was born, there was no father waiting beside her. Only an old priest named Theron. As the child entered the world, the wind suddenly stopped. The fire went completely still. Outside, every owl in the forest became silent. Then a golden eagle appeared above the house. It circled 3 times. And disappeared into the clouds. Theron looked at the newborn child. A strange mark shaped like a small lightning bolt rested over his heart. "What shall you name him?" the priest asked. Lyra held the child close. "Orion." Theron frowned. "That is a dangerous name." "Why?" "Because the stars remember it." Lyra smiled softly. "Then let the stars remember my son." Years passed. Orion grew unlike any child in the village. He was kind. Quiet. Curious. But there was something unusual about him. Whenever storms approached, he could hear thunder before anyone else. Whenever he touched the sea, the waves seemed to calm. And when he became angry, tiny sparks sometimes danced between his fingers. His mother told him never to speak of these things. "People fear what they cannot understand," she said. Orion listened. But he always wondered why. One evening, when Orion was 17, he climbed the mountain alone. The sunset painted the sky gold. He sat beside an ancient ruined temple. Then he heard a voice. "Orion." He turned. No one was there. "Who are you?" The wind whispered through the trees. "You have been hidden long enough." Suddenly, lightning struck the temple. The stone floor cracked. Beneath it was a golden shield. Orion reached toward it. The moment his fingers touched the shield, the mountain shook. And somewhere on Olympus, Zeus felt it. The king of the gods stood from his throne. He has awakened. On Olympus, the gods gathered. Athena arrived first. Then Apollo, Artemis, Hermes, Ares. Even Hades appeared through a shadowy doorway. Zeus stood before them. The child has awakened. Athena's eyes narrowed. The prophecy. Zeus nodded. Ares laughed. Then kill him. Athena looked at him. That is not always the answer. It has always been my answer. Hades spoke quietly. If the prophecy is true, killing the boy may be impossible. Zeus gripped his thunderbolt. I will not allow another child of prophecy to threaten Olympus. Athena asked. Who is his father? Zeus remained silent. The gods looked at one another. Finally, Hades understood. You. The room became silent. Zeus looked toward the mortal world. His mother was Lyra. Athena's expression changed. Then he carries your blood. Yes. And you hid him from us. I hid him from myself. For Zeus knew something the others did not. Years ago, before Orion was born, the king of the gods had received another prophecy. A child would someday inherit the strength of Olympus. But that child would not seek the throne. He would seek freedom. And freedom was something the gods feared more than war. Zeus ordered Hermes to find Orion. But Athena secretly gave Hermes another command. Do not hurt him. Hermes smiled. I wasn't planning to. Why? Because I'm curious. The next morning, a stranger arrived in Orion's village. He wore a traveler's cloak and carried a silver staff. It was Hermes. He found Orion beside the river. You are Orion. Who are you? Someone who knows more about you than you know about yourself. Orion frowned. That sounds suspicious. Hermes laughed. Good. Suspicion keeps heroes alive. He revealed the truth. Orion was the son of Zeus. A child of mortal blood and divine blood. Orion refused to believe him. My father is dead. Your mortal father was. Hermes pointed toward the clouds. Your other father is very much alive. Before Orion could answer, the river exploded. A creature rose from the water. Its body was covered with bronze scales. Its eyes burned blue. Hermes stepped backward. Ah! Orion stared. What? I was hoping we wouldn't meet that. The creature roared. Hermes shouted. Run! But Orion did not move. The monster charged. Orion raised his hands. Lightning erupted from his body. The creature was thrown backward. Hermes stared. Well. Orion looked at his hands. What did I just do? Hermes smiled. You just announced yourself to the entire Greek world. Hermes told Orion that the creature had been sent by an ancient enemy of Olympus. Its name was Draken. A serpent born from the darkness beneath the earth. It had guarded the gates of Tartarus since the age of the Titans. Now it had awakened. And it wanted Orion. The only person who could explain why was the Oracle of Delphi. So Orion began his journey. Along the way, he met a young woman named Lyra. She was a traveler carrying a broken bronze sword. She had dark hair and sharp eyes. You walk like someone who has never been chased by a monster, she said. I have. Then why are you walking so slowly? Orion looked behind him. Because Hermes told me not to panic. Lyra laughed. Then Hermes has clearly never met you. She joined him. Together they traveled through forests and valleys. At night, they slept beneath the stars. Orion asked Lyra why she carried the broken sword. My father was a soldier. What happened? He went to war and never returned. Do you hate the gods? Lyra looked at the sky. I don't know. Why? Because if the gods control everything, then perhaps my father's death was their choice. Orion remained silent. That night, he looked at the stars. For the first time, he wondered whether being a god was a blessing or a curse. After several days, Orion and Lyra reached Delphi. The oracle waited inside a temple filled with incense. Her eyes were closed. When Orion entered, she opened them immediately. You. Orion stopped. You know me. I have seen you before you were born. The oracle touched his forehead. Then she screamed. The temple shook. The sacred fire turned black. The oracle spoke in a voice that was not her own. Son of thunder. Child of earth. Heir of Olympus. You shall face 3 doors. Orion listened. The first door belongs to the living. The second belongs to the dead. The third belongs to the gods. She looked directly into his eyes. Behind the first door, you will lose your strength. Behind the second, you will lose someone you love. Behind the third, you will lose yourself. Lyra asked. How can he survive? The oracle smiled sadly. He cannot survive unchanged. Then she whispered the final warning. Do not trust the one who wears the crown. Orion understood immediately. Zeus. The oracle said nothing. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. The first door was hidden in the Forest of Artemis. Orion and Lyra traveled beneath ancient trees where sunlight rarely touched the ground. They soon discovered that they were being watched. A silver arrow struck the tree beside Orion. Artemis appeared. You should not be here. Orion raised his hands. I came for answers. You are a danger. To whom? Everyone. Artemis lowered her bow. Then she looked at Lyra. You. Lyra stepped forward. What? You carry a sword belonging to a dead man. Lyra's face went pale. My father. Artemis nodded. He served in a war the gods started. Lyra's hands tightened. Why? Artemis looked away. Because the gods are not always wise. Orion stared at her. Then why should I become one of them? Artemis smiled faintly. You shouldn't. She led them deeper into the forest. At last they reached a massive stone door. The first door. Orion touched it. The door opened. Inside was a chamber filled with golden light. A voice spoke. Give up your divine power. Orion hesitated. Lyra said. You don't have to. Orion looked at her. If I don't, we cannot continue. He stepped forward. The golden light surrounded him. His lightning disappeared. The mark on his chest faded. For the first time in his life, Orion felt completely human. And strangely, he felt free. Without his divine power, Orion became vulnerable. He and Lyra continued their journey. Eventually they reached an abandoned city. No people lived there. No birds sang. No wind moved through the streets. At the center stood a palace made of black stone. Hermes appeared. I thought you might need help. Orion frowned. Where have you been? Trying not to get killed by Zeus. Lyra asked. Why would Zeus want you dead? Hermes looked at Orion. Because I helped you. Suddenly, the palace doors opened. A shadow emerged. It was Ares, the god of war. You have caused enough trouble. Orion stepped forward. I am not afraid of you. Ares smiled. You should be. The battle began. Without his divine power, Orion could barely defend himself. Ares struck him across the courtyard. Lyra attacked. Ares threw her aside. Orion stood again. He looked at Lyra. Then at Ares. Something changed inside him. He realized that strength was not always power. Sometimes strength was choosing to stand again. He charged. Ares laughed. But Orion did not attack him. Instead, he dropped his weapon. I will not fight you. Ares stopped. Why? Because you want me to. For the first time, the god of war had no answer. Beneath the city was a staircase. At its bottom stood the second door. The door of the dead. Orion knew what it meant. Lyra did too. We should turn back, she whispered. Orion shook his head. We cannot. They entered. Suddenly, the world became cold. They heard voices. Voices of people they had lost. Lyra heard her father. Lyra. She froze. Orion heard his mother. Come home. They walked deeper. The dead surrounded them. Some were kings. Some were soldiers. Some were forgotten children. At the center stood Hades, the god of the underworld. He looked at Orion. You have come for someone. Orion shook his head. No. Hades smiled. Then you are wiser than most heroes. He pointed toward a shadow. Lyra's father stood there. Lyra ran to him. They embraced. Her father whispered. Do not follow me. I came to bring you back. You cannot. Why? Because death is not a prison. He touched her face. It is simply another road. Lyra cried. Orion looked away. Hades approached him. You have passed the second door. Orion asked. What did I lose? Hades answered. The illusion that everyone can be saved. When Orion returned to the living world, the sky had changed. Black clouds covered Olympus. The Titans had awakened. Cronus, father of Zeus, had escaped his ancient prison. The Titan army marched toward Olympus. The gods prepared for war. Zeus called Orion. You must fight. Orion looked at him. Why? Because you are my son. That is not an answer. Zeus raised his thunderbolt. You carry the blood of Olympus. Orion looked at the burning sky. I carry human blood too. Zeus became angry. You belong to us. No. Orion looked directly at him. I belong to myself. Zeus struck the ground with his thunderbolt. The mountain shook. You dare challenge me? Orion answered quietly. Yes. The gods watched. Athena smiled. Poseidon lowered his head. Hades whispered. At last. The war began at dawn. The Titans descended from the mountains. Olympus shook beneath their footsteps. Poseidon summoned enormous waves. Athena commanded the armies. Apollo filled the sky with arrows of sunlight. Artemis hunted Titans through the forests. Ares charged into battle. Hermes carried messages between the gods. And Zeus unleashed thunder. But Cronus was too powerful. One by one, the gods began to fall. Orion stood among them, still without his divine power. Lyra stood beside him. We cannot win. Orion looked toward Olympus. Then perhaps winning isn't the point. What is? Choosing what comes after. Cronus appeared before them. You are the child of Zeus. Yes. And you carry my blood through him. Orion raised his sword. I am not your weapon. Cronus laughed. Then you will die as a man. He attacked. Orion was thrown across the battlefield. He fell beside Zeus. The king of the gods was wounded. For the first time, Orion saw fear in his father's eyes. Help me. Orion reached for him. But then he remembered the prophecy. The third door. The crown. He realized the prophecy had never said he would destroy Zeus. It said he would choose whether Olympus survived. And suddenly he understood. Olympus did not need to survive unchanged. Orion climbed the steps of Olympus. The golden halls were empty. At the end stood the third door. The door of the gods. He opened it. Inside was a throne. The throne of Olympus. A voice spoke. Sit. Orion looked at it. If you sit upon the throne, you will become immortal. He remained silent. You will command storms. You will command kings. You will command death. Mortals will worship you. Orion stepped closer. What is the price? Your humanity. He understood. To become a god meant becoming something else. He thought of his mother. Lyra. The village. The dead. The forests. The sea. He thought of every mortal who had suffered beneath the decisions of the gods. Then he turned away from the throne. I refuse. The room shook. The gods appeared. Zeus. Athena. Poseidon. Hades. Apollo. Artemis. All watched him. Zeus asked. Then what do you choose? Orion answered. Neither god nor king. He raised his hand. I choose to remain human. The moment Orion rejected the throne, the golden halls began to crumble. The gods lost their immortality. Not completely. But enough to understand fear. Cronus entered. You have destroyed Olympus. Orion looked at him. No. He turned toward the gods. I have changed it. Zeus stared at his son. For the first time, the king of the gods understood the prophecy. The child was never meant to inherit Olympus. He was meant to end the age when gods ruled without consequence. Cronus attacked one final time. Orion stood beside Lyra. He had no thunderbolt. No divine armor. No immortal army. Only a human heart. And that was enough. The gods joined him. Athena raised her spear. Poseidon raised his trident. Apollo summoned the sun. Artemis drew her bow. Hades opened the gates of the underworld. Hermes carried the final message. And Zeus raised his thunderbolt. Together, gods and mortals stood against Cronus. The final battle lasted 3 days. Mountains broke. Seas rose. The sky burned. But eventually Cronus fell. The Titan disappeared into the darkness. Silence covered the world. Then Zeus approached Orion. You could have ruled. I know. You could have become immortal. I know. Why did you refuse? Orion looked toward the sunrise. Because immortality means nothing if you forget why life matters. Zeus lowered his head. The king of Olympus had no answer. And when his final night arrived, he sat beneath an olive tree. Lyra sat beside him. The stars filled the sky. Are you afraid? She asked. Orion smiled. No. Why? Because I finally understand. Understand what? That even the gods must someday become memories. He closed his eyes. His breathing became quiet. And somewhere above them, a golden eagle appeared. It circled the tree 3 times. Then flew toward the stars. That night, a new constellation appeared in the heavens. The Greeks called it Orion. They said it was the final gift of Olympus. But the oldest storytellers told a different tale. They said the constellation was not a gift from the gods. It was a reminder. A reminder that a mortal had once stood before immortality. And chosen humanity. And perhaps, on quiet nights when the moon is bright and the wind moves gently through the olive trees, the gods still look down upon the earth. Perhaps Zeus remembers his son. Perhaps Athena remembers his wisdom. Perhaps Hades remembers the young man who understood that death was not a punishment. And perhaps, somewhere beyond the stars, Orion is still watching. Not as a god. Not as a king. But as a human soul who chose his own path. The world became quiet. The mountains slept. The seas became still. The temples fell into silence. And beneath the gentle light of the stars, the age of the gods slowly became a story. A story whispered from one generation to another. A story of power. A story of destiny. A story of love. And above all, a story of choice. Because even when the fates have written the road ahead, the heart may still decide how to walk it. And so the final son of Olympus remained among the stars. Forever watching. Forever peaceful. Forever free.